If you're a fan of this channel, you know that alongside books, one of my passions is professional wrestling. And this weekend, the professional wrestling industry, or at least fan base, was completely rocked when this man became a bad guy. He turned heel, and I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk to you guys about some books about wrestling that I love. So in this video we're going to have a few books about wrestling that we're going to be talking about. You can get the books from the links in the description down below, or see if you can pick them up from your local library. Starting off strong, NITRO. This book is about WCW and more specifically Monday Night Nitro. And look, there is another book similar to this called The Rise and Fall of WCW. I think NITRO is a better book. NITRO has more facts and figures and stuff and has less like insider stories informing it, because the people who wrote The Rise and Fall of WCW, they're wrestling insiders, whereas NITRO is a slightly more outside of the industry author. So this book documents kind of the way Monday Night Nitro kind of grew, the reasons behind it, the people involved with it then collapsing. They also bring forward facts and figures to support this, not just hearsay that you do get in the other book, The Rise and Fall of WCW. And it's just a very engaging read if you're into it. So again, you guys might not be wrestling fans. Monday Night Nitro and Monday Night Raw. You probably heard of Monday Night Raw even if you're not a wrestling fan. It's on Netflix internationally as well now. Basically, WCW and WWE, they were the two big companies in the United States, and they were duking it out like in the ratings. So on Monday night, they would both run, and like WWE was on top. Then for about 2 years, WCW was absolutely destroying and dominating WWE on a Monday night. WWE was running like shows in like school gyms, and then WWE overtook, and then eventually WWE bought WCW for like a fraction of its worth. It's actually a very interesting story. There are different players, different people involved. The wrestlers, the people who book the show, the people who write the show. Hulk Hogan is, heavily involved in potentially the destruction of an entire company. We hate Hulk Hogan here, by the way. Every day is so, but it is such a good read about the business and about, just how these massive corporations can just like destroy something so fast, and how individuals involved in corporations can just destroy multiple people's livelihoods, or something that has like been ingrained in the American psyche for like years. Next up is Cheating Death, Stealing Life, Eddie Guerrero's autobiography. I'll be honest, as a child growing up, I adored Eddie Guerrero. I wanted to be Eddie Guerrero. I wanted a Cadillac that would bounce. I would copy what he did. I would like say like Mamacita and stuff as a child. I adored Eddie Guerrero. This book was written just before he died. He wrote this book right before he died, and it came out after his death. And it is a story of a very, very flawed man, and I think it's in the book he talks about how flawed he is, all the mistakes he made, how he messed up life, how he messed up people around him, how he tried to improve, how he did improve. He spoke about his family lineage, the weight of carrying that, his substance abuse issues after getting into a car crash, the commitment he had to the industry, like an insider thing. When you are a big name in wrestling, but you're not wrestling for one of the big companies, you're a free agent. Oftentimes, small companies will bring you in and they'll say, hey, you're a big name. We're going to make it so you're not going to lose to our best wrestler. But maybe if they can like get a draw with you, like if there's a 20-minute time limit on the match and there's a draw or something. And Eddie Guerrero was like, no, I'm going to lose to your best wrestler because it will make your best wrestler look great. And that's the kind of man he was when he was in his redemption arc, I guess, in life, the start of his redemption. But also it's very clear he was honest about the mistakes he made when it came to his loved ones, when it came to his own ego at times. And just like, as someone who absolutely adored Eddie Guerrero as a child, I honestly I cried reading this book. I read this maybe 6-7 years ago. I just remember crying at the afterword as well. And yeah, this is just a more personal one. I adore Eddie Guerrero and just, yeah. Eggshells, Pro Wrestling in the Tokyo Dome. This is a super unique book because it's not just about wrestling, it's also about the Tokyo Dome as a stadium itself. It's basically, up until 2018 or 2017, chronicling all the wrestling shows that took place in the Tokyo Dome in Japan. The Tokyo Dome is like this massive stadium they have. They oftentimes play baseball there. And Chris Charlton is like the foremost historian when it comes to Japanese wrestling, or at least I believe he is. Or at least maybe he is the foremost English-speaking historian when it comes to Japanese wrestling, because I don't speak Japanese. I don't know if it's a Japanese guy or person who knows way more than him. And he basically goes through all the shows that were running the Tokyo Dome. He gives a breakdown of the show, a breakdown of the matches, and also talks about the history of the company and what led the company to being at that show. So at the moment, the biggest company that runs the Tokyo Dome in Japan is New Japan Pro Wrestling. And they ran multiple shows in the past, when Antonio Inoki was still alive and was still very much involved with the day-to-day running of the company. And he would describe this is why they were able to run the Tokyo Dome. This is how much they leveraged to be able to do it. This is why perhaps the show wasn't doing so well because XYZ story at in the company wasn't doing great. Here's another company that is a direct competitor to New Japan who actually was getting a bigger crowd for the Tokyo Dome, and they ran it because of X relationship they had with New Japan. It's professional wrestling is not just so interesting because of the stuff you see in front of the screen. It's also all the stuff behind the scenes. It's like it's like corporate drama, but really heightened because these are all people with mostly big egos because they are people who are stars. And, when you've got that star, when you've got that itch, you kind of have this big ego. For better or for worse. Mostly for worse, let's be honest. But again, it's a very unique book because it really personifies the Tokyo Dome as a character within this non-fiction book. It's such an interesting way of going about it. It's like if I wrote a book about Liverpool and it was basically from the perspective of Anfield Stadium, which is actually a very interesting book to write, but I'm not smarticle enough to do that. And finally, Spandex, Screwjobs and Cheap Pops by Carrie Dunn. This book, 2013 it came out. Carrie Dunn is a journalist who now mostly writes about women's football, and she's very prolifically written about women's football, so I might actually pick up some of her books. But I only know her having read this and just done research into what else she's read. I don't know anything else about Carrie Dunn. But this book, I remember reading it and was my first insight into professional wrestling in the UK. And kind of just how crazy professional wrestling in the UK is. And it still is, but it's gotten a lot more, settled and makes sense now. But this is talking about people who were very big names in professional wrestling in the United Kingdom, probably up until about 2020, sorry. Often, unfortunately, a lot of the people interviewed in this book, there has been things that have come out about them that, are unsavory I'm sorry, I need to give so much context in this video, but in the UK, kind of like the Me Too movement, there was something called Speaking Out, where many, mostly female wrestlers came out and spoke about how there were many of the male wrestlers who were very abusive and very harassing of them. And unfortunately, some of the people who were spoken about, who were named in this movement, unfortunately were interviewed in this book. So it is unfortunate, and I think from what I can tell and from people I've spoken to, definitely wrestling in the UK has cleaned up its act. I think WWE basically came in and destroyed the independent scene in the UK for a good 3 or 4 years, and I think that happened at the same time as the speaking out movement, and I think those two things have happened, and I think it has gone a long way to cleaning up the UK independent scene and gotten rid of a lot of the bad characters in the scene. Obviously, there's still probably people who aren't great, but we probably don't know of them, or even those who do maybe haven't said anything about it. But thankfully, the scene seems to have cleaned up a lot, and there was a big resurgence. I mean, on my birthday, I went to go watch wrestling, and it was the best birthday I've had in like decades. But getting back to the book, sorry, I just had to add that context in. This book is basically telling you about what wrestling was like in the UK up until about 2013 when this book came out, and it was like, there's a lot of wrestlers who are now like working in WWE or New Japan Pro Wrestling or in AEW, the other big company in the United States, these are guys who are my age, who are like, yeah, I was 13 years old, I was, they were smuggling me into Germany to wrestle because I didn't have a permit to work because I was 13 and I wanted to wrestle, so they hid me in the bottom of the car when we went through the passport control. I'm like, what? Or like someone was like, yeah, I used to take a 5-hour journey to Kent to train wrestling on like a Saturday, and take a 5-hour journey back on the Sunday and go to school the following day. There were people like, I was working a full-time job, I went and wrestled, hurt myself so badly and went back to working a full-time job. It was very much not in its infancy, because obviously, again, if you're maybe older, you probably remember people like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and wrestling at the Royal Albert Hall, and then unfortunately the American product came in and the UK scene kind of faded away, and then this independent scene came out, and it was very grungy, and kind of people were just putting things together, and they were learning on the fly. And then now WWE came in, destroyed the scene again, and now it's now got that more professional plus grungy feeling to it when you go to a wrestling show, or even just like a local one. Oftentimes in my small town, a wrestling show will come in and they'll run it in a small little hall, and it's just a really good fun time. But yeah, this was just showing the independent scene in the UK up until about 2013 and how crazy it was, and just the commitment these people had. And now some of the people I read about in this book I actually see on television. Maybe they're in a prominent role, sometimes they're not in a prominent role, but it's crazy seeing that. And yeah, it was my first insight into professional wrestling in the UK, outside of, I don't know, when I was a young child and I was like, Dad, please take me to watch the wrestling. And it was just some like 19-year-old guys who were wrestling for like a tenner, but they did it for the love of the game. So those were 4 books about professional wrestling. I know maybe this isn't the best audience for that, but I just wanted to talk about it anyway. So you can find the books in the description down below, or pick them up from your local library if you can. Hey, shout out to my wonderful members. My members get additional videos. They get to be part of the book club, which we're currently reading Minor Detail in. So if you want to check it out, you should. They get special emojis, they get content early, they get special badges. If you're interested, it's £2 a month. You can click join at the bottom of this video or on my channel. But if not, you get to this point in the video, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share the video with a friend or family member. And I hope you read a great book today. Oh, and very quickly, if you're here, I want to show off this drip I've got. It's by a company which is called Wrestling X Coffee. They are a company that works with retired wrestlers, and proceeds from their coffee, as well as like the hoodies I'm wearing, go towards supporting retired wrestlers, whether it be with their medical bills, with mental health stuff. Wrestling is an industry where you don't always make a lot of money, and you hurt yourself very badly doing it. And they do really good work supporting these people. So I'm going to put a link to them in the description down below for you to check it out if you are interested. But yeah, Wrestling X Coffee. This is a very comfortable hoodie as well. But yeah, thanks for watching.